Okay, you're gonna go. Just here. Don't stop hanging around.
All right, but I get to stare at you luridly while you do so.
Please give me more.
Again, well now, what might interest you, I wonder? Shall I describe the stages involved with Lanthrax poisoning? I watched a man go through all 7 once.
That sounds like fun.
Haha, you have rather macabre tastes, I see. I like that. Let's
Sarcasm.
see. How about the largest battle I ever took part in? That would have been the slaughter of Prince Azrin. Did you hear of that down in these parts?
I doubt it.
Prince Azrin was 4th in line to the throne, you see. He started off as 11th, but worked his way up the old-fashioned method by inheriting control of an entire Crocel from his grandfather. After assassinating his way through the royal family, the king hired 3 other cells to take down Prince Azrin once and for all. I was in one of those cells.
Is this sort of thing common in Antiva?
Antivan royalty is very much bound up in the crows. You wouldn't want it run by a bunch of commoners, after all, would you? And this means they get involved in politics quite often. This particular fight nearly bankrupted the nation, I understand. It almost ended up putting a crow on the throne, a commoner. But that's a whole different story. I played a very small part.
What did you do?
My part in the entire battle was taken up trying to reach Princess Verina, who had thrown in with her brother. I killed about 11 of her guards personally before I got knocked out of a window. I landed in a river and nearly drowned. I was fished out by some urchins who robbed me blind. Made off with my boots, too. At least they didn't cut my throat. And that was my part in history.
You got robbed by urchins?
I had to find my way back to the safe house, bruised and naked, and thankful to be alive. But there you go. Tale told. Let's be off before I tell more embarrassing stories, huh?
You didn't even have to tell me that one. Can I answer some questions?
All right, but I get to stare at you luridly while you do so.
How many adventures do you have? So tell me more about your adventures.
Well, the only one that's really worth telling is the story of the mission right before I came to Ferelden. But no, I would rather not. I shouldn't have said anything.
No, if he doesn't want to talk about it, it's fine. It's alright, I understand.
Thank you. Perhaps another day, huh? All right, but I get to stare at you luridly.
Tell me
while
a
you
little
do
about Antiva.
Oh, you wish to know about Antiva, do you? The only way to truly appreciate it would be to go there. It is a warm place, not cold and harsh like this Ferelden. In Antiva it rains often, but the flowers are always in bloom. Or so the saying goes.
And it has, you don't like Ferelden?
It is fine enough with its dogs and its mud. The people are spirited, even if they can't tell the difference between an assassin and a mere killer. I hail from the glorious Antiva city, home to the royal palace. It is a glittering gem amidst the sand, my Antiva city. Do you come from someplace comparable?
My mother was better than any gem. Love it. I was born in Highever, in the north.
Oh, I have never seen that place. I am sure it has its charms, and its dogs.
Well, Blue knows.
You know what is most odd? We speak of my homeland, and for all its wine and its dark-haired beauties and the lilo flutes of the minstrels, I miss the leather the most.
This I have to hear.
I mean the smell. For years, I lived in a tiny apartment near Antiva City's leather-making district, in a building where the crows stored their youngest recruits, packed in like crates. I grew accustomed to the stench, even though the humans complained of it constantly. To this day, the smell of fresh leather is what reminds me most of home more than anything else.
That sounds like you've been away from home forever.
Oh, not so long, I know. It is my first time away from Antiva, however, and the thought of never returning makes me think of it constantly. Before I left, I was tempted to spend what little coin I possessed on leather boots I spotted in the store window. Finest Antivan leather. Perfect craftsmanship. Ah, but I was a fool to leave them. I thought, Zevran, you can buy them when you return as a reward for a job well done. More the fool I, no?
Gosh, your leather fetish. Your home is still there, Zevran. No demon boots for you. Your home is still there, Zevran.
True, and it's a comforting thought. One simply never knows what is to come next. How could I have suspected I would end up defeated by a beautiful Grey Warden, a woman who then spares my life? I could not.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Even Grey Wardens who spare the lives of assassins? Understood. Now, if it is all the same to you, I would prefer not to speak more of Antiva. It makes me wistful and hungry for a proper meal.
We can go to dinner room. Go to a restaurant. Or a restaurant, like a pub, I guess, in this world. Any more questions?
Alright, but I get to stare at you luridly.
Let's move on. No, I'm not done talking to you. I want to discuss something personal.
Oh, this should be good. What would you like to discuss?
That might start going down the romance line, and I don't want to, so never mind. Okay, I'm gonna do Liliana last. Win.
What's on your mind?
Okay. What did the spirit choose to help you? Or why?
I have always had an affinity for the spirits of the Fade. As a child, I never feared my dreams because I knew they were there.
Oh. I've never experienced that before.
I've always been able to feel the spirits, even if I never saw them. And as I nurtured my talent in the circle, I became more sensitive. I began to notice every time I was in the Fade, whether it was in a dream or in magical practice, that I was being watched.
Do spirits watch people like that?
I suppose they must. It is these benevolent spirits that create our dream worlds in the Fade. Sometimes I would see it, a glowing, nebulous form. Most times I would just feel its presence, gentle and comforting, but somehow alien. I think it is a spirit of faith. They have never been seen before, and perhaps I am wrong. But something tells me I'm not. It always felt like the same entity. This one spirit was curious about me, and was guarding me, for want of a better word.
You mean it protected you?
There were times when I was in the Fade that it seemed to stretch forth to shield me, keeping me safe. And I think it gave me strength in my most terrible battles, Ostagar being one of them.
So the spirit of faith is your personal protector.
I don't know why I was chosen. Perhaps it knew that there was something more that lay in store for me. I like to think that I was given a rare chance, and I'm going to make the best of the time so generously given to me.
I'm glad you think traveling with me is worthy of your time.
I will not lie motionless in a bed with coverlets up to my chin, waiting for death to claim me. That is not the death for me. And so I will fight alongside the Grey Warden, and help prepare her for the task that is yet before her.
Alistair.
So
He's
had
also a
better
Grey
listen
Warden,
to
just
me,
saying.
Because I swear, if I should fall before the end and you don't seem to be doing things properly, I'll get up again to give you a good finger wagging.
I expect nothing less. I'll hold you to that promise.
You know, I think you'll be all right, even without my help.
Hate how long these stay here sometimes.
What's on your mind?
Is there something we can do to cure you?
Cure me? What, am I sick now?
I guess death isn't an illness, is it?
Even you know that you cannot cure the dead. And I'm not the only one dying. You are too. I'm just more efficient about it.
Hmm.
Ah, child. Your concern is heartwarming. But death comes to everyone, and it is not something to fear.
I'd rather be alive, really.
People fear not death, but having life taken from them. Many waste the life given to them, occupying themselves with things that do not matter. When the end comes, they say they did not have time enough to spend with loved ones, to fulfill dreams, to go on adventures they only talked about. But why should you fear death if you are happy with the life you have led? If you can look back on everything and say, yes, I am content. It is enough.
Are you content?
I think I've led a good life, a full life, and I, for one, am not afraid of death, whatever it may bring. They say that when you die, your spirit travels through the fade and returns to the Maker. And after that, we'll see, won't we? What's on your mind?
Do you have any regrets at all?
I try not to dwell too much on the mistakes of my past, of which there are many. I would go quite mad if I did that. But I do have one regret. The greatest misstep of my life, made even more grave because it had dire consequences for someone else.
Tell me, it might make you feel better.
Years ago, I was assigned as mentor to a lad, Anarin. He was my first apprentice. Anarin was an elf, raised in one of the elven alienages, and he was very mistrustful of humans, especially humans in authority.
I can see how this could be trouble.
What Anarin needed was time. Time to get used to his new home, time to emerge from his shell, so we could build a rapport. I gave him no such time. I was young and arrogant. He is a mage, I thought. He needs to grow up and act like one. I expected too much from him too quickly. I gave no consideration to his origin or his feelings, and he retreated further from me. All I could think of was how stubborn he was, how he was throwing away all his talent and his potential just to be difficult.
And what did he think of you?
Oh, I dread to think. I was a harsh taskmistress. He might have thought I was a demon in disguise. You cannot plant crops in the cold, wintry ground. You cannot teach a student who is closed off and unresponsive. Patience is what is needed, and I learned that too late to help him.
What happened to Anarian?
Anarin ran away from the circle one night. I had berated him over some trivial, ridiculous matter that I no longer remember. I drove him away because of something utterly unimportant. He was a child, 14 at the time of his leaving. They had his phylactery, and they hunted him down.
He's dead then.
They called him Maleficar, a mage who practices forbidden magic, deserving of death. He was a child, misunderstood and lost. I begged the Templars to tell me if he suffered, if they gave him a quick death. I got no answers from them. I was his mentor, and they wouldn't even tell me what became of him.
It's not your fault, Win.
I should have known better. I had the best mentors. They were kind, compassionate. Why didn't I learn from them? I failed Anarin. All I had to do was listen to him. He would try to talk to me, and I would tell him to concentrate on his spells. He talked about the alienage sometimes, and the Dalish. He always talked about looking for the Dalish elves.
Maybe he did find the Dalish.
The Templars are well trained and thorough. That he still lives, it would be a vain hope. The apprentices that came after Anarin benefited greatly from the lessons I learned from him. In a sense, he was my teacher, and I his student.
And that might have been what happened with your teachers. They might have had a very similar experience, unfortunately. See, there's a bright side.
And there it is. My story, my one greatest regret.
Quest!
What's on your mind?
I was just thinking about Grey Warden. About being a Grey Warden.
Is something troubling you?
I wonder if she would think this. Sometimes, or would she think this? Because she would have been... She's the second child, so her brother would have been more likely to inherit than her. Well, I don't think there's anything stopping her from inheriting the throne if he died. But it's very clear at the beginning, like she already had her daggers, that she was a fighter. That she probably wanted to be a fighter. I think that's how I played her. She wanted to be a fighter. So, yeah, I think it's this. No, I think it's the best thing that happened to me.
You are one of the 2 surviving Grey
There you
Wardens
go, we
in
finally acknowledge
Ferelden.
Alistair.
You defend all of us, and much rests on your shoulders. It may not mean much to you, but thank you for having the courage to continue to fight.
I just realized that also gives authority? No, that's not the right word. It gives reason for why Alistair would always be in my party, because he is part of my default party. Because we're the 2 Grey Wardens. We're doing missions to try and bring power to the Wardens. Why wouldn't we be together in, like, doing these things? And keeping wind can be shown, like, look, we have the authority of the mages. We have, like, one of the highest members who could have been first enchanter, I think is what she said at one point. She turned it down. So, yeah, like, that gives us more authority as well. And then Liliana, she's love interest. Okay. And because I like having an archer, and I hate being the archer. It's so boring. I'll be ready when the time comes.
And that gives me hope. Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old?
I know they sort the skies and griffins. All I want from one of these Dragon Age games is just to allow me to ride a griffin. I don't care if they're extinct. Let me ride a griffin, please. I love griffins. Note that.
Griffins. Alas, that seems to be the only thing people remember from the tales. The mighty flying mounts that bore the Grey Wardens
I want
into
one.
battle.
I want one. It's brought up in every single game. It's like, I just want a griffin. Yes, well, I wish I had a griffin.
Unfortunately, they've all passed back into the Maker's hand. So that wish will
There's
have
one.
to go unfulfilled.
There is one.
It was
somewhere.
said that watching the Wardens
He will be mine.
ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. I remember a tale that was told to me many years ago.
Does the story have griffins in it? No. Go on.
The Blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail, and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums, and stood before the armies of men.
Griffins? This is what's being said eternally. And what happened then?
The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead, and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt. And then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back, and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled.
This story isn't about a specific battle, is it?
You are observant. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the Darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing and your burden.